Hey everyone, some exciting news to share. AREF Long is proud to be in partnership with Kev Talks for on-site coverage of TPM 2026. While Kev Talks will be sharing conversations from across global logistics, our team will be there to discuss customs compliance, tariffs, and risk management with importers and industry partners. If you're attending TPM this year, we invite you to come by and join in on the conversation. We hope to see you there.
When we look at visibility software, when we look at supply chain execution orchestration software, for example, from a logistics company perspective, it tends to be very logistics oriented. Again, no surprise, but it speaks their language. It speaks the language of containers and bills of lading and things that really resonate with their world, but it may not speak the language of purchase orders or merchandising or things that would, be in the world of a shipper.
Yep.
Hey, KP, what is going on?
All right. Another great episode of your favorite podcast, the number one podcast of Northwest Arkansas supply chain with
global,
two co-hosts,
real
two
world, global logistics. Number one. Nobody
Number
does
one.
it better. It's like a James Bond movie. Nobody does it.
Yeah, don't sing. All right, all right, before we jump in, I want to share something that's been kind of in my head lately. After a friend of ours, Kath Earl, episode 4, by the way, audience.
Yeah.
Go back
Okay.
if you haven't listened to it. Listen to it, and you'll kind of know when I share this that it's obviously came from Kath. But there's an idea from, look up the name, Bashar. It's called Follow Your Excitement,
Okay.
And don't overthink this,
Okay.
but as the fundamental core of it, it's really just about doing the next thing that genuinely feels right, giving it your best effort, not stressing about it, where it's going to end up or land. So just follow me here with this, Higgins.
Right.
I want you to.
Okay.
So it's a step program essentially. So step 1, act on your excitement, your passion, whatever is most exciting to you in the moment. Do this every moment that you can.
Ooh,
Right.
I like
Step
that.
2, do this to the best of your ability. Take it as far as you can until you cannot take it any further. So no limitations. Step 3, act on your excitement and passion with absolutely no insistence, assumption, or expectation of what the outcome should be. I really like that one.
Yeah,
Step
no kidding.
4, choose to remain in a positive state regardless of what happens.
Ooh, that's tough.
That one's hard.
Yeah.
Constantly, so step 5, constantly investigate your belief systems. Release and replace the unpreferred beliefs, fear-based beliefs, and the beliefs not in alignment with who you prefer to be. Now, does this sound like something that would come from Kath, right?
100%.
This stuff is gold.
100%.
We'll put this in the show notes. I want people to read these and digest these. Something for me personally that goes along with this, Proverbs 16:9. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. So this hits home for me, especially, in logistics and leadership. None of us really have perfect, I'll call, visibility, but we all have to make decisions every day with typically half the information, a lot of pressure, and in some cases, some real consequences. So people who make progress aren't the ones waiting for everything to line up. And I'm telling myself this, but I want our listeners to kind of digest. They take the next step, they see what happens, they adjust, and they keep moving. So I hear this theme over and over in our podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of our episodes, this is a theme. So from operators, leaders, builders, you name it. So stay curious. Don't force the outcomes. Check your assumptions. Don't let fear be the thing driving the bus.
Yeah.
And again, I'm telling myself. So as you're listening today, there's a simple question to sit with. What's the next step you should take, even if you don't have the whole map yet?
Oof. God, that is so cat. I love, there's so many little nuggets inside
There's
of
no
that.
catechisms in that.
Yeah, that little
when she
grander
shared
picture.
That with me, it really resonated.
Yeah.
I sat on it. I've digested it, and I had to share it with our audience.
Yeah.
I'll put those steps in the notes.
That's so
But
great.
I think it really resonated that a lot of our podcast and a lot of our guests live this, and teach
Yeah.
this and speak of this. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that with the listeners.
And I think that's one of the huge blessings that you and I get out of our guests, are these reminders, right? So, one of the things, I think it was in the 5th step that you talked about, is like, it's little, but it's big. Who you prefer to be, right? It's not who you are, it's who you prefer to be. And that's like, I have a preference for myself and I don't meet it a lot of times. And so I think that's incredibly powerful for me.
But yes, everything you just said, but then remember step 4, choose to remain in a positive state regardless of what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
even though, you don't think you are that, let's remain positive, regardless of what happens.
So we're going to remind each other of that when we have some offline conversations. Right?
Okay. I got you. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, this step 4. Thanks, Kath. Thanks, Kath. You've given us something to remind each other of all the time.
Thank you.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great, man. I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate Kath sharing that with you. So you could. So, but what's been going on this week? Let's don't spend a lot of time talking about Northwest Arkansas weather because, people think we're pansies. We got a little bit of snow and things shut down, but it is cold. I don't mind the snow. I just don't like the cold.
Yeah. I think, we're prepping for next week. We're literally, just a couple of days out to a really big event that you and I have done a lot of planning with our partners at CSCMP. So February 4th, we've got the event that we're really excited about, that we've planned how NWA became the supply chain capital of the Heartland. We've got 3 great panelists, Tracy Black, Dr. Matt Waller, and Steve Moore. That we're excited. We've got really good attendees. Hope everyone who signed up shows up.
I do too.
They have some tricky weather, but we're all going to be there. You're going to get to see the #1 supply chain podcast in Northwest Arkansas recorded live. So looking forward to that. If you haven't registered, you still have time. You have time up until the day before. So
let's put the registration link in the show notes for the episode.
Absolutely. And then right after that, we're at TPM 26 with our partner, Harry F. Long. We're excited about being there with Heather Rush and the Harry F. Long Inc. team. And we will be there on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in and out of the conference. Really looking forward to seeing a lot of industry friends and peers, and anxious to get some good content and some great episodes recorded. So that's fast approaching.
Oh, it's coming up. It's fast. It'll be here before we know it, dude. It's coming fast.
March 1st through the 4th, I believe it is. Yeah. So yeah. Well, essentially March is spring for us here in Northwest Arkansas. So it'll be here before you know it. We're almost out of the winter months, man. We're gonna make it.
I know we're gonna make it.
I just jinxed this, but we're gonna make it.
So we've CSCMP, TPM. It's been it's never quiet. Say what?
OMG.
Oh yeah, that's right.
CSEMP, TPM,
Yep.
OMG, ABC.
It's never quiet in our industry, but it's been relatively quiet since we released our episode on Friday. Nothing major popping out there that I've seen, unless you've seen something coming up. But we do have this week an incredible guest on, and
You know him?
I know him. I know him fairly well. I've known him for, I guess, 27 years now.
Oh, is that what it is? Wow.
Yeah, 1999. And he was, when we started this podcast, KP, you remember we put together our list, and he was top of the list for us to get.
Yep.
And
took forever.
Yeah, it's
All your
probably
fault. Yep.
it's probably my fault. But here we are, episodes into the 60s, and we're going to have, not only just a great, to me, a industry tech legend, but a great friend of mine and a business partner of mine as well, somebody that I've admired for 27 years. And so,
I think you can put the word "the" before his name.
Yeah. Well, yes, I always do. And I always call him, I don't call him by his first name. I call him by his first and last name all the time when I refer to him. Yeah, he does. But this is a great episode. And so we're honored this week to have with us the Mike Simon. Mike is a veteran supply chain technologist, former software company owner, and a strategic advisor with decades of experience across ocean carriers, ports, railroads, shippers, and large enterprises, such as, IBM, Maersk Data. He started his career at Sealand in the 1980s, working alongside legendary leaders like Ken Johns, and later expanded through America's Systems, was his company that he was a part of, where he helped design end-to-end platforms that reshaped freight strategy, visibility, and invoicing. And that's where I know Mike, because Mike was one of the architects of Transport Tools, the container allocation system that we developed at Walmart. So, Mike brings a rare ecosystem-wide perspective on supply chain technology, AI adoption, and leadership in general. So incredibly honored to welcome and have on our podcast the one and only Mike Simon.
All right. Hey, welcome, Mike. We have Mike Simon. Mike, we have chased you for quite some time, literally all year long. So we're ultra excited to have you on and hear what you have to say and hear a little bit about your career. So welcome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Been following along Kev Talks for quite some time, so it's an honor to be with you guys today.
So can we call you a super fan if you're following us? Can we give you that category?
I qualify as a super fan. I may be the only one, but I qualify as a super fan.
Yeah.
Well, we have the number one most important super fan is Kevin's mom. So you can be the super fan right after his mom.
My mom will be super excited to actually see a face of somebody that I've talked about for decades.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yes.
Yeah.
She's never seen like the real live. She really thinks maybe this is like your pretend friend, and that Mike doesn't exist. So this is
she's used to me making up friends. So, she'll be like, oh, he does not look like what I thought he does. Yeah. Anyway, well, Mike, I'm glad you're here, man. And we'll get into it. There's a lot of things to talk about, but KP, Mike and I have known each other for a long time, and I'm going to let Mike talk about that. I'm not going to bore everybody with it, but he's a legend in the industry as far as I'm concerned. He's been a hero of mine for a long time, and he's done a lot of really cool stuff. So, Mike, why don't you just kind of tell us, a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into the meat of this thing.
Yeah, and Mike, if you could start maybe, when did you meet Kevin Higgins? How long have you known Kevin, and what was that like, the first meeting? And to really tell us, what did you really think when you met Kevin Higgins?
It was a super fan experience. I go back to probably the late 90s.
Yeah.
96, 97, 98, around there. And At that time, I owned a software company called America Systems, um, and Kevin was at Walmart. They were working on a system for forecasting and allocations management. Later
Yep.
became known as Transport Tools, but
Yep.
at that time, I think it was GAMS, Global Allocation Management System, something like
Yeah.
that. I remember
It's
that.
back in the
So,
archives,
Yeah.
baby.
yeah,
Wow.
back in those days, everything had to have an acronym. It wasn't
Yeah,
a real
exactly.
system unless it had some made up acronym, right? So
Yeah.
GAMS was the name of the
Flex,
tool.
Limbs, Gams.
Yeah, and it was fascinating. I mean, I spent my whole career, up to that point and largely beyond, um, working on different types of software solutions for the industry, appreciating the challenges and going up against the challenges at the same time around data, around maturity, around changes in technology, whatever the case may be. And so when I met Kevin, he was a visionary for sure, still is, but also Walmart just being, kind of a unicorn relative to its ability to kind of simplify its contracts, get folks to go along with that simplification of contracts, to get their core carriers to work together as a group. And in support of this idea, this concept, the mutual benefit of being able to take large volumes from Walmart and distribute them out to carriers, not just as a function of contract compliance, but practical reality. So much volume that you could fill a ship on a given week, for example, or not fill a ship, in a given week at the same time. So the intrigue around the ability to work on a platform like that, uniquely with a customer the size of Walmart, who could really be kind of the art of the possible, perfect contracts, sort of ecosystem collaboration, technology built in a collaborative sense, and so forth. And that's how we met, and that's how I really began to appreciate this vision and Kevin's ability to orchestrate the environment to bring that to life.
Okay. This will be a really short podcast if you keep giving Higgins compliments. I'm not used to that.
We can edit all that stuff out.
Well, we will have to edit most of it. Yes,
you're gonna have to get somebody else to edit it because I'm gonna bump it up.
Well, that's
this
awesome.
is the mom. This is the Kevin's mom version. We can record that one,
right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, it really was a great time, and I tell you, when KP, we started GAMS, and it had, we were just on the very first iteration of that, and Mike came in and really understood it on a level that I hadn't seen before, and was able to really take that. And even after I left my role, he took that system and continued to work with the folks at Walmart and took it to something that was absolutely amazing. And Mike, to this day, has not been replicated.
It has not. Yeah, it has not. People will claim that they have been able to, but I have not seen the interconnectedness that we were able to create with transport tools, from allocation, forecasting, through to the booking orchestration, the origin visibility, through to the visibility on the water, all the way out to destination management, and then even pro forma invoicing, and being able to sort of completely flip the script as it relates to freight audits and all of the challenges around carriers being able to produce an accurate invoice. What we got to was like, no, we'll just tell you what we're going to pay, with the confidence that everything in the system leading up to that point is complete and accurate, right? And I don't know that anybody's been able to replicate that either.
That's awesome. So Mike, let's back the clock up even further from that great day when you met Kevin Higgins. Well before that, you obviously, you decided at some point to be in this crazy industry, like all of us in supply chain.
Yeah.
How did your career start? What led you down that path, or how did you start? I think you wear many hats. I'm looking at my notes. Sailor is one of those. Is that where it started?
Peripherally, I would say my dad was a merchant mariner and in the Navy, and tugboat captain, pilot, harbor pilot. So, that was in my blood. He got his master's license when he was, I think, 32 years old, maybe one of the youngest people to ever get unlimited masters. And so he was very, very passionate about all things maritime. Not that I was necessarily, but when I went to school at Old Dominion for computer science and math and graduated, I had a bunch of different job options, one of which happened to be Sealand. And so, while my dad was like, that's the perfect job to start, my sister thought that I would be like training dolphins, SeaWorld versus Sealand. But my dad at the time was a harbor pilot in Norfolk for Curtis Bay Towing, and he docked Sealand ships. So he knew the company really, really well. He knew the whole story of containerization really, really well. And so better than I did, frankly. And so, he sort of pushed me in that direction. And I appreciate that he did that. So I joined Sealand in 1985 and really started to appreciate its role. Ken Johns was president at the time, obviously icon in the industry. So I got to meet him and got to be in a small group of people that was building both customer access systems, kind of first of the kind pre-internet, as well as executive information systems for Ken Johns and for his leadership team. So it gave me a really interesting perspective on where those visionaries were looking to go with the industry. They were probably investing more than anybody in IT, even at that time, significant mainframe investments and things of that nature. So we had access to great data, the ability to build all kinds of really cool tools that in retrospect, again, were very much first of a kind. So that's where it started. And so I was there for about 5 years. Ken Johns left, started a company that I joined soon after that became America's System. So I was a partner in that company with Ken Johns and Vic Torciello and Steve Bushy and a bunch of other guys for about 20 years after that. Wow. And we built systems, including GAM/transport tools for the largest of the large ocean carriers and ports and terminals and railroads and BCOs. And it was just an amazing experience to be able to get a perspective on every aspect of the industry over 100 plus projects, let's say. So that was the starting point.
I didn't know that Ken was a part of America's System. I mean, that's a legendary group of people.
Right. Yeah.
Right there.
Imagine that. I mean, it's So, he was probably 30, 40 years my senior at the time, but having him and Vic Torcielli and Ed Tobin, who later became global CIO for Colgate, and Steve Bushy, and those guys who were both like innovators in the container industry at that time, but then also, innovative aspects of building a small software company.
Yeah.
Again, looking back on it, it was cool at the time, but looking back on it, you can really appreciate the ability to run in those circles with those guys and really be a part of something at the tail end of their careers. But it was awesome.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That'd be awesome.
Mike, I typically wait and ask this question toward the end. So this doesn't mean this is the end of the podcast, but if you hadn't have been in supply chain, what would you have done? What
It would have still been software. So I started out as an engineering major, and I had an advisor at one point who said, "Hey, I noticed that you've got like more elective credits in computer programming and math classes than you do in core engineering. What's going on there?" I'm like, "It's been a hobby of mine since I was a kid." Mm-hmm. And so he convinced me to actually switch to computer science and pursue that more so than engineering. So I would have gone in that direction. When I graduated, I had an opportunity to interview with NASA, or Langley NASA, down where I lived in Virginia. Allied Bendix, working on what would have been, early stage ABS braking systems and things of that nature. So a lot of really cool things. But again, my dad pushed me towards supply chain and logistics and transportation, which I appreciate in retrospect.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
So Mike, you've obviously worn many hats. I kind of referenced CIO, consultant, advisory, distillery marketer, and then a sailor. So we'll get to the distillery later, but how do you connect these experiences to the work that you're doing today in 2025?
I don't know that I connect them as much as I maybe disconnect them, and just pursue different passions and different interests, and find those ones that really click and really kind of spark something inside of you. And so, like sailing, for example, we lived on a boat when I was a kid, and my dad and I kind of built a makeshift sailboat at the time.
Wow.
I got an appreciation for just the power of the wind, and being able to move something across the water. Later in life, I really sort of took it up as much more of an avocation, and got the bug, started racing, got certified as an instructor, got certified as a bareboat charter license. So one of our best, I'm trying to get Mr. Higgins to go with us on one of our trips, but we love to go down to St. Thomas or to the British Virgin Islands. This year, the Abacos, Bahamas, and charter, like a 50-foot sailing catamaran, and just sail around the islands for a week.
Well, Higgins, what's stopping you?
Well,
You're not going. I am.
I was. No, trust me, dude. I'm ready to rock and roll. But I'm thinking, like, man, what a Kev Talks, catamaran, Bahamas, live. It's logistics, right? So
it's logistics.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah,
I love it. That's a great idea.
Well, I want to say this about Mike. He talks about, disconnecting them, connecting them, and disconnecting them. But one of the great things about Mike, and my experiences anyway, is his ability to really wrap his mind around the processes and everything that goes into, whether it's marketing or distilling or sailing or software or anything else like that. He wraps his mind around the practical application and processes of that. And then he becomes your number one fan. And he's the most encouraging human being that I've ever had the privilege of being around. And that's why I will say this. I was trying to find the time to say this, but, Mike is a strategic advisor to Archer. And, somebody asked me, Mike, this probably 10 or 12 years ago. We were at dinner with Doug Siva and somebody from a private equity firm. And this lady asked me, she said, Kevin, if you could do anything before your career is over, what would you want to do? And I said, end paper bills of lading and do something special with Mike Simon. So, I don't know that we're going to solve the paper bills of lading thing, but I am getting to do something special with Mike Simon again. So, he's just super encouraging.
I thought that doing something special was the catamaran trip to St. Thomas that he just offered.
It's a byproduct, right?
Okay.
It's a connected piece of that.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Mr. Higgins.
So let's get into, kind of your real world. I'll call the digital transformation within logistics. And, the first question I think could potentially be the rest of the podcast, but we're going to get to other stuff. Where are you seeing the biggest gaps between what logistics companies say they want in tech versus what they actually adopt?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that Mr. Higgins and I are that has brought us back together to work on some things most recently is just this notion that software is very fragmented. That's kind of a big statement of the obvious, but what we mean by that is what logistics companies want within their four walls, what shippers want, broadly speaking, within their four walls, and what others in the ecosystem want. Again, not surprisingly, they serve the needs of those organizations, but maybe not the ecosystem at large, right? And I see this, I do a lot of work in manufacturing and a lot of work in construction, commercial construction. It's the same everywhere, right? But when we look at visibility software, when we look at supply chain execution orchestration software, for example, from a logistics company perspective, it tends to be very logistics oriented. Again, no surprise, but it speaks their language. It speaks the language of containers and bills of lading and things that really resonate with their world, but it may not speak the language of purchase orders or merchandising or things that would, be in the world of a shipper.
Yep.
So if that mindset is pervasive and if the software reinforces that, then there's sort of a natural divide relative to how to deliver on the value proposition for one or the other, right? So I'd say in long answer to your question, that's one of the things that seems to be fairly pervasive. So when you look at a shipper, for example, who again, all they care about is purchase orders and merchandising and things of that nature, item-centric views of their world, the fact that they've chosen to manufacture things halfway around the globe and therefore have to worry about containers and vessels and so forth, it's sort of a means to an end. It's a knee-jerk reaction to something that's outside of the world that they really care most about. And we really haven't seen anybody solve for that in a persona-driven way, let's say, right? There are ways that they can add a PO to a container, or add a PO to a shipment or something like that, but it's still centric to the person that is serving in their role versus in service to what it is that the ultimate payer of the freight, really cares most about. So when you fast forward and look at, what we all spend time on these days, or, AI, for example, if the data itself is not in a structure that matters and not in a completeness and accuracy that matters, then whether it's Gen AI or agentic AI, you're really going to struggle to be able to get value out of that outside of just very isolated use cases, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm going to jump right into the AI piece of it since you brought that up. Everyone's talking about AI, digital twins, blockchain, maybe not blockchain as much. But from your vantage point, which one of these are these real game changers, or is it just hype?
Oh, they're real game changers. There's no question about it. The pace at which things are moving, the unquestionably a game changer. How it is that people apply it, I think that's the part that is going to take time for the industry to really sort of catch up to. So I mentioned Gen AI versus agentic AI. Gen AI, Chat GPT, we all use that, or Microsoft Copilot, or those types of things. Those are great for, sort of Q&A. I have a question, give me an answer. Give me an answer based on everything that's ever been published in the world ever, right? Do so in context.
The new Google, right? It's the new Google. Instead of Googling something,
Yeah, exactly. I read a stat, I forget the exact number, but the shift of where it is that people are going for those types of Q&A inquiries away from google.com to their, LLM of choice, their AI of choice, that shift is very, very real.
Yeah.
The other aspect is agentic AI. So agentic being you have an agent, it's a digital agent. So it's not just question and answer, but actually do something for me, decide something for me, execute a task for me. And how it is that can be orchestrated relative to data within your four walls, or that plus other data, decision rules that you can provide, things of that, thresholds that you can provide. Do this if it's within that threshold, do that if it's within another threshold. So anything that you would imagine a human or an army of humans would otherwise be doing themselves, in the hands of agentic AI, being able to do it at massive speed, massive scale. Yeah. That's where things are also going in all industries, frankly. But that requires, a keen understanding of your processes, your journey, the data, the rules, the guardrails around that, and so forth, in order to be able to A, think of where best to place it, and B, to actually implement it in a way where you see the kind of benefits that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, this is some of the things that we were talking about. And, KP, you've been in this role before when there's been some kind of an event, right? So whether it's a strike or anything else, or a Baltimore, a ship hits a bridge or something like that, and your buyers are coming down and saying, what products do I have that are affected, right?
Where's my stuff?
Yep. Where's my stuff? And so you have to go to all the different systems and piece all that together, right? I got containers. Now what POs are on the containers? All right. What items are associated with that? And I think, Mike, this is something that you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something you're talking about, is like the ability to now to have a conversation and say, what items do I have that are currently in Baltimore, currently impacted, or within 10 days of arriving or departing their origin port that will be impacted by this news article,
Yeah.
and have that search your data and bring it back and give you usable information that you can then report back on. Is that
That's,
right? Is that
that's
right?
real world. What you just described, it gives me
Yeah.
chills because I lived that. I mean, this was a decade or more ago where we were tasked with exactly that. And the time that it took, the frustration that we had, the amount of people that were pulled into a project just
Yeah.
to find out to answer that question, that now you can, in the right way, you can find that out, and then scenario it and then give solutions.
Yeah.
That's real world. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And there are, sort of adoption frameworks that people use for um, what level to go to. Level 0 being, I just have a question, give me an answer. Level 3 being, go ahead and make a decision and act on it.
Yep.
Right? Rebook all this cargo, for example. Notify all of the customers, for example. Look at all the implications relative to partners and how they need to be involved in that. Right? So again, I look at it like whatever humans would naturally do in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Ship hits a bridge, find all the containers and all the shipments in the containers and so forth. All of that work that people can do, albeit hitting many, many different systems and taking lots of time. That's what agentic AI can do for you. If you've got the right data in the right place where it can piece those things together, decompose it, build it into, kind of the data structures that it's looking for. We're working with a customer right now, different industry, but a great use case where they bid on very large scale construction projects. And so imagine that you get a massive RFP from a government agency, and you've got a bid room, you've got a bid team. Their process is they break this thing open, they decompose it, they start to recompose it relative to what the core requirements are. They look at it relative to what their capabilities are. What do we lean into more versus less? How do we think about pricing? How does it work with other projects that we have going on, and so forth? So that's a very typical use case that large construction companies go through relative to bid response. From an AI perspective, imagine being able to load that RFP into, if it's PDF form, for example, load it right into your agentic AI bid room, have the AI itself break it down into component parts that you've trained it to go looking for, have it match up to other content that you've uploaded as it relates to the services that you provide, where you provide them, the prices that you offer, and so forth. And then essentially, if not produce your response to the bid automatically, at least be there as another member of the bid room to say, question and answer. Okay, section 1. What they're looking for is information about the firm. Here it is. How do we like that? Tweak this, tweak that, regenerate it. We're good with that. Move on to section 2, scope of services, right? So those types of things are readily available. Even using like a notebook LM, for example, Google's retrieval augmented AI capability. We're doing that on smaller scale projects, but even that as a good RAG model example are things that people are already doing today. But you have to sort of imagine what all those data sources are, have good hygiene relative to feeding them into the model, test it, train it, watch it, and so forth. But as it learns, it gets to a point where it can provide massive results and capability.
Oh, absolutely. It's exciting times. It's one of the reasons why I'm staying in this industry outside of, I want to do a podcast with Kevin Higgins. You know, uh, just living in these days and knowing the things that I've done in my career and knowing the technology that's going to be out there that's going to help improve, and do it faster and more efficiently. I love being a part of that. But with
Yeah.
that, kind of gets me to, what's the next wave of, what's your thoughts on what's the next wave of technology that logistics leaders aren't talking about enough yet?
Yeah, I think one area that might be platforms that themselves are low code, no code. Um, they're built on componentry and built on newer design concepts that allow for citizen development, allow business people to essentially who best understand a business process or a flow, a data flow, a workflow, something like that, and with tools simple enough where they can actually orchestrate their own applications, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are more and more prevalent, but they don't fall into the trap of shadow IT as things might have when we grew up, and therefore of great concern to IT organizations or organizations more broadly. They're designed in such a way where you have the best of both worlds, where you can have kind of citizen IT, if you will, citizen development, but then have federated IT where you've got a degree of control over what it is, particularly if you start to introduce AI into those as well, where you can satisfy the security requirements, data requirements, protection requirements, privacy, and so forth that IT firms will care about. So, I think going back to the discussion earlier about the notion of there not being solutions that are designed for shippers, for example, that speak in the terms that they care about, that speak about purchase orders and items and so forth, where they end up sort of building their own on spreadsheets. I would say low code, no code is sort of the next bastion of spreadsheets, albeit with a lot more control, a lot more capability built into them.
Explain that a little bit, Mike, because explain low code, no code just a little bit, because just because there is a platform that's low code, no code doesn't mean there's no code around it, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of code around it, but give us an explanation that I can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine you have a really smart business analyst, for example, and they're managing a process in spreadsheets today. And I get something from a provider and I put that into a spreadsheet with n number of columns that I created. I create some calculations, some formulas. It produces some results that I then send on to somebody else within my organization, right? Or I query that spreadsheet and I look for exceptions and I communicate back to my partners. That type of thing is very common. It's very pervasive. So a low code, no code platform would allow somebody to say, okay, I want to create a screen or maybe even an interface, just get rid of that, manual work altogether. I'll come back to that. But let's say I want to create a screen that captures that data and I can have a partner key into that screen, or I can upload a spreadsheet into that screen. And then based on what I'm looking for, based on the actions, low code would allow me to say, when this occurs, cause this trigger, this event to occur. And maybe that is email something to Kevin Higgins, for example, or send him a text message, or send him something where, Kevin, this happened. Can I have your approval to move forward? And start to have a two-way dialogue occur from a workflow perspective. So those types of things in these types of platforms are drag and drop, fill in a blank, put in a trigger, put in a threshold, things of that nature, add a field, a new label, a new definition, based on how it is that I work in my organization, that sort of thing, and build from a simple workflow to even a fairly complex workflow, but then add the capability to say, using tools like a Zapier, for example, let me go ahead and create a configuration also, or an integration, also drag and drop, where I can go to somebody's using Salesforce. They have an open API. I want to be able to extract data, or TMS or something like that. I want to be able to extract data and create my own interface, something that would otherwise have taken traditional EDI trading partnerships and many weeks to go back and forth and so forth. It may not be something that you look to for industrial strength, industrial scale, but in the context of an analyst that's otherwise working in spreadsheet form anyway, and that's their world, right? With all of the chances for issues, that are part of it, these become really, really important solutions for companies to get out of spreadsheets and start down the path of having, much more robust capabilities that are only going to get smarter. They're only going to get better. And to the extent that you now have data that you can access within these platforms, coming back to agentic AI, being able to go out and say, hey, when this occurs, go to this particular website and scrape a screen RPA, or go to this data source, for example, look at a vessel schedule. Whenever I see a change that's more than 3 days, do the following type of a thing, right? Again, all things that a person would normally do in their day-to-day world in their own kind of manual SOP, if you will, but the ability to orchestrate that and automate that within these types of platforms. That's, if not the next best thing or the next thing that's happening, it's certainly something that's very, very available to people now.
Yeah.
And those, what we're seeing is, not only does it give you, it's basically a SaaS platform that's very configurable and very flexible, but you're able to get down to the granularity that's important to you, and to create the persona views that are also important to your organization. So it's allowing people to really focus around what your organizational needs are, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, Kevin, because you think about that analyst who is the ingestion point for stuff and the sender point for stuff. Who are they sending to? They're sending to another colleague in another mode, or they're sending to somebody on the business side, for example, that cares about product availability relative to a sale or something like that. But rather than actually receive and then do something and then send to all of those, how about just have that ecosystem of people have their own view of the world? Yep. And be able to subscribe to an alert. So I'm a merchandiser, and I want to know, for example, based on this time frame, based on this particular store, based on this particular set of POs, if something is going to happen where those products are not going to be there when I expect them to be there, send me an alert. And my ability to either create that orchestration myself or have that analyst create that orchestration for me, where I'm now in sort of self-service mode or proactive, kind of alert mode. It changes the world, changes the whole dynamic relative to that whole ecosystem being able to get value out of a platform like that. Yeah. And again, think about that from the standpoint of traditional software. There are platforms that do that, but it's not without a significant amount of effort to go in and configure them unique to the needs of that particular organization versus the people in the organization themselves to be able to know enough to configure that and continue to evolve that for the changing needs of the organization. It's very, very real.
Yeah. And again, it falls into the category, where was this when I was, 10 years ago? This would have been great. I would have saved a lot of heartache. But again, it's exciting, and it's so exciting, it definitely, Higgins, it's got to be a broader topic, a full episode. We could go on and talk about that. I love the explanation, Mike, of really what that can do and what it is, but we definitely need to have a full episode. So the next portion of the podcast, I'll give our viewers, our listeners, a warning. This is the adult section. We're going to talk about distilleries now. So fair warning. Yes. So Mike, you're involved with the distillery. I believe you are. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what lessons of supply chain management apply directly to building a brand and moving bottles, from a distillery?
Hey, let's, before you answer that, Mike, KP, let's go back to something you and I were talking about earlier. We're talking about beverage sponsors.
Okay.
For the podcast.
Okay.
Huh.
There you go.
I'll just plant that seed now, Mike. You may answer that question.
And Mike, just so you know, when he was talking about it, he was mentioning Sonic. He hadn't even thought about distillery. So, he
I thought very well.
Yeah, we can definitely make that happen. So
we got it recorded.
Yeah,
we got it.
So years ago, we had there were a number of young entrepreneurs that came to Define Logic, the agency that I owned. But they were pre-revenue. They had really interesting stories. They had really interesting ideas, entrepreneurs, but no money. And we're like, we can't really help you on a retail basis. But a few of us said, hey, these things would be really cool to get involved in some way, shape, or form. A number of us older guys that knew enough about building a business plan and getting somebody to a funding event and that type of thing said we could help these kids. Let's build something we called Studio Red Bank, an incubator, and let's bring it to market. and see what we can do just to have fun, right? It's a give back model, just to have fun. And so I met a guy who had an idea to build a distillery. He was a corporate chemist turned bartender, hated the corporate world, but always had a passion about a grain to glass concept, New Jersey in particular, sweet Jersey corn being one of the best things you can make vodka out of, and a lot of other drink recipe ideas. And he's like, I want to, my vision in life is to build a distillery. And I said, you know what? We have this thing called Studio Red Bank. Why don't you come into the studio and we'll get some of the other mentors from around other businesses in town to hear your story and see how we can get you to a funding event. He agreed to do that. And we did. We had a number of sessions, and we ultimately helped him with a concept that we have Garden State Distillery here in the Garden State of New Jersey. They have a version of this that's Empire State Distillery in New York. One of us at some point will do Sunshine State down in Florida. My wife and I own the domain for that. We'll see what happens. But, we ended up building this sort of macro brand concept, but then also the very specific funding plan and the go-to-market strategy for the distillery. Part of what I learned along the way is a couple things. One, for craft distilleries, at least in the state of New Jersey, but I think it's true in many states, that have to compete against companies that have liquor licenses that they spend a lot of money for and so forth. The craft distillers are really kind of curtailed quite a bit in terms of how much they can produce, how many events they can have, whether they can have live sports playing while you're enjoying your craft beverage, things of that nature. So it really is an interesting environment where you have to build a business and a go-to-market strategy with a lot of regulatory constraints built around it. That's the first thing. The other is that Rick Norman, who's the craft distiller at Garden State Distillery, is just a fantastic guy, just probably the nicest human being I've ever met, the most engaging person I've ever met. So when you think about experience in a business and you think about going to a distillery, and yeah, your beverage was interesting, but what's going to keep you coming back over and over again, right? He has built something with Garden State Distillery that is now 6 years old, in its sixth year, and growing, doing extremely well, but really built on the back of just delivering a fantastic experience. Every time you come in, it's like you're part of the family, and hey, let me give you a tour and personalized tour in the back, and let me give you an opportunity to taste some of the products and things of that nature. And so that has stuck with me in a way that probably shouldn't have, in owning a digital agency, but where that's the basis of what you try to do for customers, but actually seeing it live and seeing it as compared to other distilleries that started and failed but didn't deliver on that experience promise. It's something that I really enjoyed seeing him, kind of live out in real time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Higgins, I did not hear him say Natural State Distillery.
Oh, you know why? Because you know who owns that domain?
That's right.
Me.
I think I kind of, as soon as that came out of my mouth, I think I kind of knew that. I remember you saying something about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just
have to do that, Mr. Higgins. We have to get on that at some point.
We got to get after it, man. We got to get after it.
That's after the sponsorship for Kev Talks as the beverage. Let's get that done first, right, Higgins?
Let's get her done.
All right, Mike. So looking back, what's one leadership lesson that you've learned in logistics that still guides you today?
I would say whether it's a leadership lesson, but it's something I think about a lot and try to share with folks that I work with a lot, and that's listen more than you talk. Right. So I never learned anything when I was talking. You only learn when you're listening. And a buddy of mine said, you have one of these, you have two of these. There's a reason for that. Right. Yeah. But think about that. If you're in an arcane business like logistics and you don't know what you don't know, you can't see around every corner. You don't want to be overly prescriptive. You want to make sure you listen to the needs of every organization, every individual. Not just to be respectful and empathetic, but do so that you don't miss something that's ultimately very important. I think that's the key to success in delivering solutions to people, software solutions or otherwise. and it's something that people definitely see and they appreciate. Those guys really listened to what I had to say.
Yeah.
They played it back to me in a way that was meaningful. They really understood the nuanced challenges that that we have going on, and they were thoughtful enough to come forward with solutions that really speak to who we are, where we are, and so forth. So that's something I would share.
Yeah, no, I love that. I really do. So just for fun, what's more difficult to master, selling in the open waters or managing a global IT transformation?
IT transformation for sure. I mean, there are obstacles everywhere, whether it's monetary or it's visionary or it's parochialism. But coming back to that, the listen more than you talk lesson, right? That is absolutely key, right? So people are resistant to change. I mean, that's kind of a statement of the obvious, or we've all heard that. But
Yeah.
The only way I've ever been successful in dealing with that is to listen and to build trust and empathy for where people are, what they're trying to accomplish, and so forth. And transformation without doing that, I think is a risky business.
Yeah. And Tammy would probably agree with that too, wouldn't she?
Yeah, she may have taught me to listen more than I talk, or certainly reinforce that.
Yeah. They have a tendency to do that. And KP, you don't know Tammy, but she is a fantastic human being and incredible partner to Mike, and Mike's an incredible partner to her. And
awesome.
So I just love both of them to death.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, she's 40 years in logistics, KP.
Why? I know why I'm still in the business. Like I said, it's the podcast. But those of us that are still in it, you have to kind of wonder, like, why, right?
We honestly, Tammy should be on. We should have Tammy on the podcast because of the things that she's done and what she's doing now. We should absolutely have her on.
Oh yeah, we should. It should have been a duo. We could have done like a double episode. We have Mike.
This is like 4 months worth of episodes. We have the two of them on.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah. She's phenomenal. You talk about leadership lessons. She is the best servant leader I think I've ever run across. Right. Meaning she serves from the bottom up, so to speak, and is there to just knock things down, get things out of the way so people can be successful. She's very, very, very good at it. So having her on to talk about lessons around servant leadership would be fantastic.
That sounds awesome. We're always looking for great guests, so we'll definitely keep that in mind and try to have her on for sure. Well, listen, this has been you didn't disappoint. Like I said, we chased you, we waited, we got you. We could keep going on and on and on, but if you listen to enough of our episodes, we always toward the end we're going to pull in.
Here we go.
Right? We got to talk about food. So I know you've traveled a lot in your career. What stands out? Your favorite meal? Where at and what was it? Let's give them a plug.
I'm the simplest human being on the planet when it comes to food. Mr. Higgins will tell you that. But it's spaghetti and meatballs, lasagna, all things Italian for sure.
Okay.
But anytime I go to an Italian restaurant, first thing on the menu, if I see they have lasagna, I close the menu, and that's kind of the litmus test for whether or not it's a great restaurant.
Oh,
and just the experience with the lasagna. So Tammy, my wife, will tell you, if you would ask her the same question, it's simple. He's going to order one of those two things every single time, no matter what. So I'm simple to please when it comes to that.
Last time we were together, one of the last meals we had together out at TPM, he opened the menu up and he went like this, and he's like, "I have the lasagna."
That's right.
So yeah, I can attest to that. But I got a end of the podcast question for you.
Drum roll.
Supply chain movie. If you could pick your favorite movie that has some relation to supply chain, what would it be?
Some relationship to supply chain. I just watched Master and Commander. Have you seen that?
No.
So Master and Commander is Russell Crowe. It's my all-time favorite movie.
Oh, yeah.
All-time favorite movie.
Okay.
And so Russell Crowe, back in the 1700s, Napoleon, the French, English fighting the French. He's on the other side of the world, near the Galapagos Islands, South America, and he's chasing a frigate. And the war is going to hinge on his ability to track down this much larger, much faster, much more innovative French ship. And I won't give the whole movie away, but there are things that happen to them in different battles that they're having where they're in the middle of the water. They need a new mast, and they have to divert for a month to go into the Amazon and find a huge tree that they can cut down and trim up and create a mast out of it. So think about that in the context of logistics.
Wow.
And necessity juxtaposed with time, right? So we were on a mission. It's like all important, but we have to go over here for a month because we have to get provisions and barter with natives and go in the Amazon and cut down a 200-foot tree, and so forth. But watch that movie. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's on the list now. That sounds really good. Yeah,
I just wrote it down. I mean, people pick these amazing movies when we pose this question, Master and Commander and Saving Private Ryan and this and that. And I picked the greatest beer run ever or Smokey and the Bandit. What's that say about me?
Mike, you're not wrong. Know Higgins at all. You're not surprised at all. That's awesome.
No,
that's great.
Mike,
awesome.
I appreciate you so much. I can never tell you how much I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking time. I know you're incredibly busy. You guys are going through an integration now with the new company and everything else like that. Just got back from vacation and still took an hour of your day to spend with KP and I.
Looking forward to this for a very, very long time and super fun. Really, really, really enjoyed it. So my pleasure. Absolutely.
Well, thanks again so much for joining, Mike, and thanks for all the work that you've done in our industry. Thank you. I'll give a little bit of a preview. Higgins and I are working on some things for 2026, and one of it is a series called The Legends. And you're definitely you fall into that category. So we're going to have you back, or we're going to use part of this episode to fall into that. But we're really glad to have you on the podcast. So thanks again for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. If today's discussion inspired you, don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate, and share our podcast.
Remember, every great journey in logistics starts with a single step forward. Let's continue working together to transform the industry.